you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Got Jaime and Fuego here.
Robert Duell.
And we are here, obviously, in a quarantine review situation, but we are not going to let that stop us. We still have content to produce and still have things, especially now that we've been watching, so stuff that we want to tell you guys about. And us three, actually, one of our last reviews that we did in person was for a series called Parasyte the Maxim, which was an anime horror series that is relatively fresh from like 2016 or 17. And then I found out while going through that there was actually a live action a couple of movies, just like they did a 2-part Attack on Titan live action movie series. They also did a 2-part Parasyte live action movie series. So I went ahead and ordered it, and I was hoping that it was as good as the anime, and we're going to talk about those two movies now, and I'm just going to start off and say that for my overall thoughts, I was definitely, I had hesitation because there's a lot of crazy stuff to put in live action in order to pull off and not look really stupid, but I gotta be honest, they really did pull it off. I thought they did a great job. I really appreciate it, and I think the ultimate litmus test is, would I feel comfortable handing this to someone to say, you gotta see Parasyte? Would I be comfortable enough handing this to someone because it's a much shallower time commitment than a 24 episode anime series instead of the anime series? I think at this point, I'd be comfortable handing either one to people. I really thought they did a great job with the live action. So, Fuego, how about you?
I was very impressed, man, and I'm always hesitant myself when it comes to these sort of situations because, you know, they have to trim a lot of the fat, condense stuff. I thought the way they streamlined it really made sense. It's less for kids in a lot of ways, you know, with some of the melodrama that we have and love triangles and things like that. And they didn't hold back from the gore, which is one of my biggest reservations, is I thought that they were going to just not make it as grisly. And I dare I say in some instances, they went even beyond that. And I loved having the same dub actors and, you know, at least for, Migi and Shinichi and stuff. So, yeah.
There was the same Migi, Shinichi, the same teacher, the female teacher, and also the same Murano as well.
Yeah, I was impressed, man. And having shown it to somebody who had not seen a single episode of the anime, and she really was impressed by it, I guess I'm totally there with you, man. They did this series justice. So,
Robert?
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed. I definitely for an adaptation of a full-length anime, I thought they did great with this movie. Especially for just, again, the actors. I didn't personally. I'm more of a subtitle fan versus a dubbed fan of my anime. So I didn't have that connection with the voice actors. But for what they pulled and everything, I thought it was great, especially for Migi. Like, I thought they captured basically what they were doing in the anime very well with that character. Yeah, and like you were saying, like, I would definitely recommend these two movies to somebody if they've never seen it. Just because of how well they were able to capture the style from the anime,
and really the mostly the story as well. I mean, they cut a few characters out, in order to streamline it, but like Fuego said, it kind of made sense for what we ultimately ended up with. So let's dive a little bit deeper. So for those of you that didn't watch, I'm not sure how quickly I'm going to put these two reviews together, because we'll have the opportunity to put them back to back if we want, but. For those of you that didn't watch our review of the anime, this is a really interesting movie that is basically about a sort of invasion that is not far off of John Carpenter's The Thing, is when it comes down to the creatures, except the Thing creatures move a lot faster and they just take over a human's brain. They're like little worms that take over a human's brain, but then allows them to kind of morph themselves in really almost elastic ways, but also making themselves super deadly with teeth and metal, blades and all kinds of things. And that's one of the things I got to be honest with you. I guess we'll talk about it in effects, but translating the fights I thought was going to be really interesting because of the speed that they try and get across in the anime, right? How are you going to get that across in live action? But they actually did a pretty good job. So we'll get to that. But the story is, yes, there's these little worms that start appearing and start to try and take over people. The first worm that we see goes into a dude's head and takes over his brain, and the next morning he wakes up and his head just separates and chomps up his wife's head, like all in one fell swoop. And then the next person we see is Shinichi Izumi, a teenager in high school, and the worm jumps in to his hand, but it tries to crawl up, and he ties it off with his iPhone, earbud cords, and it stops it, so it only takes over his hand instead. And it's able to morph his hand the way the other ones can morph the bodies and stuff like that. But because of that, he calls his hand Migi, which means right hand in Japanese, and they form over the course of the story of friendship and a dependency, and it's just really interesting. Meanwhile, the people whose brains have been taken over become full-fledged monsters and start to eat humans. So it's about humans discovering these creatures exist, and then what do the humans do once they learn about it? How do they try and solve the problem, so to speak? Do they solve the problem? Meanwhile, Shinichi, his closest girlfriend Murano, and a particular creature that masquerades as a teacher at one point end up playing pivotal roles in the story. And I gotta be honest, the teacher was done so well by the live action actress.
Hell yeah.
So we'll get to that too. But story wise, they had a lot. It's a 24 episode anime series that they had to condense into two, between hour and a half and 2 hour long movies. And they actually did a really good job, and you get the complete story, and it's as impactful as the series is. And I just thought it was, the story just played out brilliantly. Fuego, how about you?
I agree, man. And I actually really appreciated the fact that they just narrowed down and just hit home that subtext that they kind of hint at certain points in the story and talk about, but it was almost more so to the forefront without being quite as preachy as you often have in these sort of films where, humans are these monsters, the definition of a monster. It's something they talk about at a couple different points in this. And they're like, you're saying we're the parasites, you're the parasites, you destroy this planet, and all of the dialogue and commentary about that. But yet the interesting duality of it is that humans are also so much more compassionate, and the fact that they will instinctually just immediately help each other in certain situations without even thinking about it. And it's something that Migi brings up a few times. And so it's an interesting dichotomy of just the way we are so brutal as a society, and yet we're also so caring and compassionate in certain aspects too. And you have characters that embody both of those in the way that they're written on various sides of the coin. And then you have shades of gray, like the teacher you were talking about, and how just humanity changes her, and the arc that she has is really fascinating. I actually felt she was done better in this than in the anime. I will go as far as saying that. I agree. I really felt it in this one, and that actor sold the hell out, or actress, sold the hell out of it. And she is like almost 50, and she's beautiful. Does not look her age, man. And
really?
So, yeah. I mean, this is like a 5 or 6 year old film at this point. Nonetheless, there were certain aspects that I thought the story actually, by streamlining certain things and focusing on specifics, maybe did better, and sometimes you see that in this regard. So
I got to be honest, I actually teared up a little bit in the live action version of that pivotal scene with her than I did in the animated one. Robert, what about you story-wise?
Story-wise, they definitely worked it really well for having to condense and cut out as much as what they had from the anime. There were definitely some characters I would have rather have seen in here than what they took out, especially like the father. Mm-hmm. I personally liked that version better than what we got for the movie. Okay. But other than that, for like what you guys were saying, for especially with the teacher. Mm-hmm. For what we had in this movie, it was definitely a lot better and more heartfelt than what we got from the show.
Yeah. So acting wise, let's move over to that. I seriously thought everyone was really strong from the bit players all the way up to the main cast. There was no real weak link. Even the people that are getting herded sort of towards the end, all the people that are trapped in the building because no one knows who's what. Like, everyone was really doing a great job. But specifically, and it's weird, Fuego and I are kind of doing double duty in judging the acting because we have to judge the dubbed voice acting as well as the actual physical acting and how they intermingle. But man, I thought it did the whole thing played really well acting wise for every character. What about for you, Fuego?
I thought so too, man. As I mentioned, the teacher already, she was great. I thought the police chief, I guess the guy with the buzzed haircut and stuff, I thought they had an awesome voice dub choice for him. He almost seemed like a military drill sergeant or something to go along with the haircut and whatnot. But Shinichi, it didn't always link up. That's the tough thing with the dubs and things of that nature. But I mean, the actor sold it very well. At times, though, and this is more so the writing than his acting, I think it's much more transformative in the anime as far as going from nerd and, kind of impish and, kind of non-confrontational to what he becomes with some of the changes that transpire without spoiling things. They mention how these changes have happened and they weren't as apparent. He seemed more consistent throughout as opposed to going through a major change. But I still felt his sadness with the stuff with his mother, and and he ignores his girlfriend just like he did in the anime as well. Consistently ignores her. Yep. So I don't know. There was no weak performances in this, though. I felt like top to bottom, it was directed by this guy who had apparently won a Japanese Academy Award. So the crew that he got together, the cast, everybody, they held it down.
Wow, Robert, acting for you?
Oh yeah. Well, no, like honestly, like it's nice to hear like you guys like held the dubbing up in high enough regards and everything, especially for acting wise on that. Because obviously I still watched it with subtitles and everything. So for me, I thought everyone was solid and didn't have a weak point. Even just for the voice acting for Miji was like, again, I like the fact that more so it was closer to the anime than what I was expecting. Because a lot of times they change the voices, and it's nothing of what you're actually accustomed to.
So, what about when it comes to before we get into the effects, which I think will be the longest part of the discussion? Let's talk about the cinematography and the sound design. I thought all of it was truly top notch. I mean, this had to have been the big budget movie treatment over there for one of the years or whatever year it came out, because they really threw everything at it, and it sounded tremendous. It looked tremendous. All of the creatures were given their due. But yeah, I mean, it was all just really, really well done. What about for you, Fuego? The sound and the cinematography?
Yeah, the filmmaking aspect as far as the look and everything, it was November 2014 for the first part and April of 2015 for the second part. So they did give them a little bit of breathing room amongst the two of them. But not just the look of some of the fight scenes and stuff that you mentioned, and I loved how they brought like a full-on martial arts aspect with some of the quick edits and stuff like that, jumping off of like side poles under freeway systems and trains and things of that nature. But even just somber scenes where the teacher and Shinichi are talking to each other and they're each facing in like separate stances. I mean, there was just some very effective shot selection and choice within it, and I mean, sound design top notch. Score though, I thought the score was emotional and really just invoked the sort of feelings that were necessary for some of those really pivotal scenes, most notably the one Cecil mentioned earlier with a particular photographic journalist and the teacher, and a couple other important parts as well. I thought that, I mean, this was made with money and with care and consideration and just really talented people behind it.
Robert?
Oh yeah. No, honestly, for the most that really stuck out for me was actually just the sounds of the parasites and everything, basically between when they were usually basically it's blossoming, when they're opening up the heads and everything, going on for attacks. Yeah, like that sound design actually really stuck with me, because just you could hear basically the flesh and almost like bone movement as they were opening up and going for the attack and things. So that's one thing I definitely really liked, is the attention to that sound design of the creatures.
Oh,
like
the
just
feeding too, man. The feeding.
Oh yeah,
There's a couple scenes where they have like the trough, and they're just like.
Yep. Yeah, it's gross. Like you just, without having to actually see what's going in there, you just hear it, and just the imagination runs wild. It's nice.
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely true. So let's get to the big, the biggest thing about these movies, and that's the effects, because there's a lot of effects, and what I was happy to see is that they didn't shy away from as much. The only thing they kind of shied away from was the really big badass one that Shinichi fights. He was kind of toned down a little bit. He wasn't up in the trees jumping from tree to tree, and kind of changed his appearance where his legs would change into the the cool bipedal running sticks and everything. Like, I don't know, some of that was a little bit lost, but I still think it was as effective as it needed to be as a live action movie. So the gore, the tendrils, yes, sometimes you could tell that it was CG, but the sound design, like you were saying, Robert, kind of sells it anyway. So I just was really, really on board. I was happy to see that they put as much attention to detail to those effects as they seemed to. What about you, Fuego?
Loved it, man. I felt like they really went for it. There were certain scenes that I felt were even a little bit gorier than what you got in the anime. I mean, we see a lot of beheadings. We see cut in half people. There's a pivotal scene in particular where there is a showdown at the school, and there's all of these girls being held hostage, and I thought for a second, I was like, are they going to go for it? Or are they going to go fully for it without spoiling stuff? They kind of impressed me in that regard. And various other scenes, stuff with his mother, and this is where you kind of have to dance around. But I mean, there's a little bit of practical here and there with the hand, like where you see the back of it as opposed to the front face, and the expressions and the animation of Migi and everything. But even that, I thought Migi looked good. I thought the integration, and it didn't look as cartoonish and silly as I was worried that it was going to. It did look a little bit more natural. This is supposed to be an alien creature, and even in the post credits they make almost this like jellyfish kind of comparison, which kind of makes sense. And so yeah, I'm happy that they didn't skimp on the gore, that they put the detail into this flowery face craziness, whatever you would describe it as, something between maybe Silent Hill and various other things that we've seen before. But the creature design was dope. I mean, tentacles going through people and everything, and I was not disappointed. So,
okay, Robert?
No, same and everything. It's like, but yeah, it's like what's funny is I was when we were watching, I was telling Ash, it's like I was just so impressed with actually the level of detail, even just on Migi sitting on that scene of the desk. Because you could actually just saw a small little freckles and stuff on his hands. So that really impressed me on their level of detail just for that. But also too, it's like, yeah, the whole creature design, the gore, going back to what Fuego was saying about the whole school situation and whatnot. That scene I was extremely happy with, because again, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, no, they definitely went for it. I was like, I didn't quite remember at the time. I was like, wait, what happens with all of them? And then when we get to it, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And yet, I even like the goofy stuff with like Migi chopping up the vegetables and helping food with him and stuff. I thought that was cute, and I don't know, I was impressed, without going into too much detail. So
I mean, ultimately, it was a really successful adaptation of the anime, you guys, and even beyond that, as just two movies separated from the anime, I still think it's very much worth your time to check them out if you can get your hands on them. I had to order the Blu-ray off of Amazon, and I think it said it was not even the correct region, but hey, it played on my PlayStation just fine. So.
And it played on mine, so hey, it worked.
Yeah. So I guess there's no really issues, you guys. I highly recommend you check it out, and if you do like it, then you can check out the anime, because it just expands on the idea a little bit more. So definitely check it out. It's called Parasyte. No the Maxim for the movies. The Maxim was the anime series, but just Parasyte with a Y. So check it out. highly worth your time. If you guys enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. We greatly appreciate those of you that support the channel. If you want to become a patron of ours, the link to that is in the description box as well. You can actually select movies like this for us to review or even do commentaries of or more. So let us know, again, what your thoughts are in those comments down below. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Jaime and Fuego.
I'm Robert Duell.
And remember, guys, stay scared.
Stay scared.
Stay scared.